Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Let's hop in here. Today is July 11th, so the Amazon Prime Day. Ooh, we got an update here. It's been a while since we've gotten an update. Um, Prime Day starts the 12th and the 13th, so 2 days for Prime Day, which is ridiculous, but whatever. Um, and so that has created probably a case where I'm not going to do too much in the next couple of days. On top of that, I've been playing Wolfenstein The Old Blood, and it's just not that good of a game. And I am particularly not that good at this. At Wolfenstein The Old Blood, or just generally military first person shooter games, or games with stealth as a focus, anyways. Looks like we've got some new cards here. Just a lot of announcements of accessories, sleeves, cards. We're not particularly rolling in gems, but we probably have enough. Let's see. Lots of little tweaks and changes. New gates in solo mode. We now have a solo player deck challenge too. Interesting. New forbidden list. Although these updates happen, frankly, too often for you to really make a good argument that you would want to read all of these notes at the same time. It's too much. Even mobile games don't delude you with that kind of news. And then you have these pop-up messages that are effectively saying the same thing anyway, so why not pop up the news at the beginning? Let's see, our daily quests, we've got some to do. Yeah, I am not particularly enjoying Wolfenstein. Ooh, this is 500. I feel like this was 600 before. So first things to do certainly would be to see if we are missing a significant amount of these cards. Yes, we are. So even though these will never be usable as like crafting point fodder, just buying that 3 times is a really great way to know that you have now 3 copies of each of these cards, if not more. And then, unless there's been some update, that should mean Dragon Made to Order. Like, as a deck, we should play that at least once and play with it, even though it's not going to be it. Dismantle all extra cards. Does seem like it did let us have some extra cards. So that, as the beginning for 1500s, is the best move. And now everything should be at 3. There's 4 here, so I have 4 undismantleable cards of that. But that does seem like that was the only one. There is definitely a danger that that'll keep happening. The other danger, certainly, around this is going to be how you potentially are going to open a selection pack. And that's going to lead to a secret pack. And then we're going to want to open the secret packs. And we're kind of short on gems if that's the case. There's no new bundle deal here. So here you have this Dragon Maid character. This almost feels like this was supposed to be a crossover for something, but I just don't know what specifically it was supposed to be a crossover for. Deluxe mates are special mates that can change their appearance during a duel. Okay, I mean, we'll get it, but it does seem kind of ridiculous that we have this new level of added on garbage. We'll go ahead and also grab a protector. There almost certainly is some kind of anime with a dragon maid out there, but I don't know if that specifically is referencing any actual show or if this is just being generic. I'll just go ahead and get this because otherwise I'll forget about it. So that's all the accessories, and that's another 1,500. Okay. So in this pack, we have a decent number of these cards already. So this is an old pack, or at least a pack that's not worthy of being considered. So this is the only new pack. We opened 50 gems here. We almost certainly opened the secret pack, although I'm not sure we actually need 50 packs. Here, let's do the smart thing here and double check to make sure these are new cards. It would seem like, my guess would be that this may be the first instance of actually getting new cards. I don't know if there's a really great way to tell about that though. 6,950 still seems to be the master pack limit, so either these are not new cards and it's just a new bundling of old cards, which is somewhat believable, or the new cards are going to always be in selection packs and they're never going to update. But they can't really be new cards, can they? Unless all of these were in that structured deck I already built. There is enough room here though to make 20 to 30 purchases. And we'll go through the actual opening sequence here, since this is new cards. Yep. There isn't really a lot to say about Wolfenstein the Old Blood. Like, you literally are you do 5 chapters at the front before you even see zombies, and the zombies so far, having played 1 chapter of about 3 that are available, don't seem like they play much of a different role. If anything, they kind of, I think, are just going to break the stealth gameplay that was focused on so much at the beginning of the game, which wasn't that good. There is a point near the back half where you have to make a decision, and one person dies and one person is saved, and depending on that decision, it just flips to the other person being saved and the other person dying if you make the other decision, which inherently is going to force you to play that level, or at least the end of that level, twice to get achievements. Although, honestly, I don't think I really am going to care about achievements, because I'm fairly certain that there's an achievement for beating the game on the highest difficulty, and I am absolutely struggling beating the game on the lowest difficulty, and I don't think I'm particularly alone with that. Wolfenstein 3D, the old game, had, like Doom, the jokey levels of difficulty that were just like text. And that attitude, that badass attitude, I just don't know if it plays as well with gamers these days. And so when the Old Blood kind of copied the exact same level difficulty names, the easiest being "Can I Play Daddy?" and showing the picture of BJ Blazkowicz with a pacifier in his mouth and a baby bomb on his head, I can't help but feel like there was a much higher percentage than what they thought there would be of people that just had too much pride to ever turn down the difficulty level. It definitely comes off like you should be able to play it at least on normal and beat the game, and it's just not balanced in a way that you can do it that way. And playing it on normal or the harder settings is going to be a very different experience for different players. Like, maybe if you are a professional or at least a very good run and gun shooter, then you could pull off the hardest difficulty for the run and gun shooting sections, but you're probably not very good at the stealth sections. And so the game desperately needs some adaptive difficulty. We only unlocked one of these. And honestly, there is enough argument to open one of these packs. Or 10 of these packs. Always 10. Conversely, if you are really good at the stealth sections in Wolfenstein 3D, you're probably not that good at the encounter sections. And there's just no real way that you're going to play Wolfenstein the Old Blood without being good at both the stealth sections. And frankly, you kind of need to be very good at both the stealth sections and the run and gun sections. There definitely are sections where you're not going to stealth your way through it. At least the boss battle that I've seen, and probably the boss battle at the end. Overall, Wolfenstein the Old Blood just feels like it was cut content from the New Order, and it should have just been left as cut content for the New Order. I don't feel like it actually succeeds as being a gap game between the New Order and then Wolfenstein 2, whatever that is actually called. I don't even know the name of the Wolfenstein 2 in the reboot series. And then they kind of just compound and make the same mistake again with Youngbloods. It's like a completely different team was put in charge of making a completely different game, and then they just slapped it into the Wolfenstein universe. And in Old Blood, they don't even really do that much, because Old Blood is an alternate universe with BJ Blazkowicz. Yeah. Meanwhile, you're still waiting for everybody is still waiting for Wolfenstein 3 to come out, which I can't help but feel like the New Order, Wolfenstein 2, and Wolfenstein 3 all could have been slightly better had they not made the side projects. Let's go look at Shark's Pride now. And this is the danger, certainly, is that we are just going to constantly fall under this category of, oh, we should buy another 10 packs of this secret pack and 10 packs of this secret pack. And I'm kind of just rolling it down in my mind towards the idea of if you're getting any ultra rares at all, you should just call it a day on the secret packs instead of trying to get a decent percentage of the secret packs available cards, because the calculation is definitely different since you're only getting 4 cards in the selection secret pack that actually go to that pack, and the first 4 cards are just normal Master Duel cards, many of which you already own. Yeah, as far as other things about the accountability section, since I really don't have anything that much to say about Wolfenstein Duel Blood, I'm still watching that Apple Plus Series C. I think it got a little bit better in the second season. Starts to get its feet a little bit more. It definitely still seems like it's trying to be Game of Thrones. The part of the problem I think that they've kind of cheated to address in the show C, SEE, is it's not just a bunch of people in the future who were blinded by a disease. It's a bunch of people who have been blinded for generation after generation by a disease and also have developed magical powers from it. There is a base level where every single blind person seems to be able to get around a post-apocalypse world way more than they really should be able to. And this is not like me underestimating the abilities people that are born blind can have. I mean, it's just my honest observation of what in the real world people who are born blind still struggle with. A really fine example of that is where one of the characters walks up to a fire, a roaring fire, which I have no idea how they are even maintaining and building fires, but whatever. This has gotten out of hand at this point, and we've just unlocked far too many secret packs. Just a ton of them. And then meanwhile, we're still not really where we probably would want to be with this. Unless we're just going to try and get to. Let's open 2 more packs. I think that's where this is going to boil down to, is that when there is a new selection pack, we're going to end up just opening 2 packs, or 2 to 3 packs, or 20 to 30 packs, I guess. But yeah, in the show C, the character walks up to a fire, picks up a cup next to the fire, which the cup was just sitting there, so how he immediately kind of grabs for it, it doesn't really explain that, and then dips it into the boiling tea that is in a pot on top of the fire, and all of that is pretty much just a base level of being able to sense your surroundings, allegedly by just hearing and world presence, which, okay, that's believable. But then they also have characters that literally can smell things from like a mile away. They have characters that they can see the future, and like people that can touch people and see their future or see if they're lying. Um, they hearing the heartbeats of a baby in womb. Um, like what you're effectively making as an argument is that so much brain power, unless you're just going to say it's magic, the only scientific argument that people would gain these abilities is that so much brain power is put into seeing and processing visuals that their brains evolved into other abilities. But seeing the future still is pretty magical, even at that. But I'm still not sure I'd really recommend watching C. It runs into, I think, even a worse scenario than Game of Thrones, where Game of Thrones started with killing a boy and a couple having an incestuous relationship. In the second season, it is once again a couple having an incestuous relationship and killing a boy. I guess there weren't really any kids being killed so far in the series, but there's been plenty of people killed in general and brutalized, and some of that is to be expected, but some of it is also a little too much. I had hoped it would have been more like Into the Badlands, where the fight sequences were more of the focus, but I don't feel like there's quite enough of a good cinematography around the fight stunt coordinator. So the fight sequences do come off as kind of rough. And they're really just not the focus there. In fact, by the second season, the focus definitely is so much on the political intrigue that you lose a lot of the other focus that was in the first season. It becomes too much political intrigue for its own good, in my opinion. The only other thing I will say is that I talked about that I was going to spend the day reprogramming my macro to cut out the middleman effectively, stop using what's on Steam for a list of games that come out on Steam for me to look at and kind of highlight. And I would normally say it was disappointingly easy, because usually when there is a programming challenge, even using the kind of bad programming language of Selenium/UI Vision, I usually look forward to that. But honestly, I've been so far behind, and nothing is ever going to really get me ahead again. So I should probably just stop caring about the fact that I fell behind. But it was super easy. It took me about 5 minutes to change the programming. The only problem now is it feels like there were more games that what's on Steam was missing and skipping than just adults only games. While it was consistently adults only games were not showing up on what's on Steam, like a significant number of them, which really throws out my whole theory, at least in part. We'll have to evaluate and see if my theory about Eastern anime adult games are getting bundled to every other weekend is still a value of a decent hypothesis. But it definitely is going to change things, and inherently it's going to change how I have to look at games. I'm going to have to look at every game that came out on Steam now before I do a spotlight, uh, because, or a web peek is what I call it, where I bring it on screen, because at any point now there could be completely uncensored thumbnails. The odds are way higher now. So there's definitely an argument around. I should probably buy a 10-pack of this, but I'm also risking buying a 10-pack of this and then not getting a super rare unless they've changed how that works. And if we were to just look at everything, either I have unlocked several new secret packs that I haven't seen before, or I have seen these secret packs and I've just not gotten that many cards off of them or bought them. There's so many cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! 10,000 in the Japanese collectible card game. This would be a terrible one to buy more of. It could just be that having any real percentage of cards is gonna take forever. Well, the good news is about half of these secret packs are not really viable. They're not things you would want to take advantage of. So, yeah, I may have to change the macros as far as what games get filtered out. We may very well stop looking at games that do not speak English. It is very much a broken record as far as the Chinese-only mobile game ports and the Chinese, like, garbage visual novels. Once every 2 weeks we see something come out of China on Steam that does look a little bit better, but that's about all you can say. And for every one game that looks like maybe they're getting slightly better or slightly more ambitious in making Chinese games, you're still dealing with 50 to 60 Chinese games that are all just absolute garbage, and there's just no real interest around even talking about or looking at those games. Of course, Total Biscuit, who has since died, and had his podcast, and he was in part, I guess, the inspiration, or at least the predecessor of looking at a lot of games on Steam. Like, Total Biscuit's podcast eventually did start just getting down to the point where they were saying, let's curate the games on Steam instead of kind of looking through all of them. And then they eventually said, let's curate it some more. And then they eventually said, let's curate it some more. And then they eventually said, let's just stop doing it. So I am, even with a little bit of curation, taking a step towards that. Look at that. All new cards. I am taking potentially a step down that path. I can practically tell you without even looking, though, that most of the Western adult games on Steam are going to be of a certain quality. It's going to be a kind of non-consistent, weird cartoony look to it. That if you've seen one, you've seen them all. That is just because there is no like consistent animation style in the West at all, and there aren't even multiple animation styles as much as it is just random people doing random things. And the games themselves are going to probably be pretty much just garbage. So would there have been an argument to coming back to this and opening another pack? No, I don't think so. But there definitely would have been an argument if we had more gems, more crystals to coming back and checking out some of these other secret packs. This again really highlights the silliness around the 10,000 gem limit, because if you really were going to be a whale, you would definitely want to spend a lot more than 10,000 gems. This is the one to buy by far, because we know we've seen people play Eldritch the Golden Lord. So yeah, that's a shame. So let's go into solo mode here. And let's take this. And select Duel here, that's a 5-star. And then let's try this Dragon Maid to Order deck and play that. So yeah, I think very quickly I'll have to filter out the adult games, because YouTube is just going to make me censor that anyways. And me talking about an adult game is going to be something that is just going to come off as awkward, possibly slightly perverted, and just weird in general. Well, unless there's something special about this card, I feel like you probably just want to select something like that. Let's see. So this one would have been better to play later. Of course, I'm playing this Dragon Maid just trying to learn right now, and whatever he's gonna play, which is some gear themed battle, which I kind of just assume the traditional practical guidance here probably in part implies that this might be the beginning of This might be the beginning of covering the like second season of the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, or the second series, where Yugi is not here. .500 attack until the end. Really don't seem like I have any fusion abilities though. So, yeah, I feel like I've started the same sentence and ended it, and I'm getting distracted in between each time of the sentence. I feel very distracted today, and I'm pretty bad about that in general. That is almost certainly a factor towards why my watch time is sometimes very short. I think is that I'm just not making coherent, consistent sentences. But yeah, I think we are moving forward towards a curation / censorship, in part forced by YouTube, as far as adult games. We'll look at it for a week, maybe 2, maybe 3, and then I'll probably just get bored of it once I have a general gist of how it works. Or how many adult games I'm missing. Most of the adult games will be just slide puzzle things and simplistic match 3 games anyways. Most of the Western adult games will be. So, on top of that, we are moving forward towards English only censorship, although it may not be really worth going down that route. It may very well be a case where you keeping the non-English speaking games might be a pain, but might be worth it. So for that, I commissioned some Bees 3, which this developer has allegedly commissioned people to draw bees, and then they're selling the game as coming soon. Coming soon may also be another issue, certainly. Here we have a game called Sky in Your Eyes, which looks like a visual novel. Doesn't look terrible. It too is labeled coming soon. So I may have to adjust the macro, although this may have been the first time I ran it anyway, so there may not be as much to adjust there as it might seem. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay. Seems like we may have a potential victory here. Here we have a game on Steam called White Paper, which just looks like nothing. Yeah, the danger there, though, certainly is then I have to come back and scroll away. Here we have another coming soon game, so we shouldn't even talk about it. Let me just quickly go through all of this fairly quickly. I feel like we had already looked at this game called The Meaning as a psychological horror game. Honestly, I've seen psychological horror or spooky house games like this 5-6 years ago that looked almost exactly the same. Graphics are slightly better, but that's about all I can say about them. I am consistently getting the what am I saying? I'm oddly consistently getting rolled over and signed out of Steam. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Not awake yet, obviously. I thought that trap was supposed to keep it from being destroyed. And I've just lost. Here we have a game on Steam called Who Shuffled My Shapes, which looks like the best implementation of a Rubik's Cube simulator so far. And it's fairly simplistic. It's just got like a home button. Looks like it could have been a mobile game, but no real complaint there. Seems like you can toggle on a score / timer. We need to play 3 times solo, so we'll just play one more time to try and figure out this Dragon Maid deck in solo. So yeah, that deserves to be on the follow list. Here we have a fighting game called Burning Fates Requiem, a kind of pixely 2-on-2 fighting game with perhaps too much going on the screen for its own good. Does look like in practical effect there's just way too big of effects, way too many lightning and fire effects. I'm not a super expert when it comes to fighting games, but I do think that is somewhat obvious. Alright. So send a normal dragon card, which probably means send that one. And then it probably means I should send something that might synergize with that. But I don't know what that is. I think this is probably the trick, but I don't know. Yeah, so far that doesn't feel like that worked. just tossed its entire hand to summon a 4500 monster. Which, I don't know if that really means my deck is the problem, or if this deck we're playing is the problem. Right. Still don't seem like I can summon anything. Destroy 2 cards. That didn't destroy that card. Yep, I've lost again. We have a troll joke game here called Super Dueled 2024, which it is, I suppose, starting to give hints that Donald Trump is going to try to run again in 2024. I think there definitely needs to be a almost bipartisan issue. Here we're having some actual network issues, it seems like. Also, we may have power outages today. Like, I've already gotten potential warnings of rolling blackouts. But yeah, there, the network just reconnected. I feel like in the United States, if I am going to talk politics, which I try not to, there is a room for a bipartisan issue on age in particular, to just say, hey, we need to just stop saying yes to people, or nominating. The parties need to stop nominating people that are that incredibly old. Trump is either slightly older or the same age as, I think he's slightly older by maybe a couple months, of Joe Biden. And the consistent complaint about Joe Biden has been that he's too old. Guess we're just going to play here. I'm just going to stick with Zodiac Tri-Brigade because I want to actually make it up to rank. Here we have a game called Erectus that seems like it's a almost chess game where you build walls. Although, doesn't really quite seem like what it's described as. Regardless, it seems too simplistic. Here we have a point-and-click adventure game, it looks like, called Albert and Puzzle Mansion. Nope, not a point-and-click adventure game. If anything, seems like it might just be an action game with some puzzling elements. Here we have a game called My Therapy. Looks like it's a Western animated kind of visual novel. Yep. Again, it just comes off as somebody who is halfway to being good at animating, but not quite there. They just don't have the experience and the polish. The West, particularly I would say the United States, but I think the West in general, just needs to have art classes before elementary school and as a drawing art class throughout all of their schooling, because otherwise you're just not going to get anywhere as good or enough practice to even be able to compete. But even practice isn't the only thing that the West needs. The West also needs to import some expert keyframers who can take beginning and intermediate animators under their wing. Because without the right direction, they will just reinforce bad habits. As for the actual game My Therapy, its early access is coming soon. Both early access and coming soon, which is weird. Here we have a game that's already mostly negative called Lost in Hell, which doesn't look that terrible, so it must play pretty clunky. So obviously that shouldn't make it to the fall list. Here we have a puzzle game called 180 Seconds. Yeah, and I think this first group of I feel like this first group of Steam games was the first time I ran the macro, and it didn't include adult games because I have yet to see one, and I would have thought I would have seen one. Here we have a game called Courage. That's just a top-down hack and slash game of no interest. Alright. It did not quite work the way I'd want it to, but I think I'm still fairly safe. Here we have a game called War on Paper, which looks like garbage. Here we have a game called Resonance of Ocean, which looks like it might actually be kind of an interesting adventure game. It's tagged as a hidden object game, and at a certain level maybe that is what it is that you're going to find hidden objects, although I think hidden object in that case is probably the wrong tag to use. Here we have a game called Territory, which looks like it's just an asset flip survival game. Here we have one called Dead Containment, which looks like a low polygon zombie shooter game. At a certain level, this doesn't look too terrible. If this was like a mobile game, there might be an argument towards it. If it was like an idle game, even where you were just switching between handguns and machine guns and shotguns, that might even make work on a mobile game concept. But as a game that's coming soon, and as a game that is a PC game, it's not there. Here we have something called Pizza Death, which is a top-down twin-stick shooter, kind of silly game, 8-bit pixels. Still waiting for this guy to decide to play. It's so nice to have OBS seemingly work now as far as accurately connecting and accurately reporting frame drops due to network congestion, because that does, particularly when playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, allow me to look and see if it's just the other player not playing or if it is a network connection, although the little flashing Wi-Fi signal also kind of implies that to be the case. Let's see. Here we have Idle Desktop Colony Building Simulator, which honestly does not look like it's an actual idle game, nor does it look like it's actually a desktop game. Which that to me feels like that is oddly just tag stuffing and name confusion. Let's see. Here we have one entropic float. The world will decay and disappear, which looks to me like it's a lot of assets being flipped in an attempt to make a visual novel. Inconsistent artwork for sure. Alright. Well, I don't have anything else I can do, so I guess I have to end the turn there. At least until I can activate this trap. Then here we have what looks like a simplistic RPG type game that's, I assume, Chinese only, Chinese and Japanese. Alright. And then we have Castaway of the Erdusta Sea, which looks like some actual animation here. That being said, it does seem like it's already mixed as just an RPG game. We're seeing a lot of belly in these screenshots, which maybe implies that there's a slightly less covered up version of this. I can see, instead of her wearing these black kind of biker shorts or whatever you would call these, spats, whatever, I could see a case where she was wearing a bikini top and a bikini bottom, and they've just covered that up. You can see also in the thumbnail of the game she's covered up in a different outfit. Alright, so we can cover some news, but then we'll get back to Steam games, because I've ran this macro several times and there's just a certain level of cover up. Because my macro had a backup to stop after 50, I believe it actually did just hit the 50 when I first ran it in earnest. Which is to say that there is a decent chance that if there was a new game that came out that was 50 times, if there were more than 50 new games that came out, and I haven't talked about them, I will just never talk about them, unfortunately. But there has to be a cutoff at some point, and hopefully what it really is going to come down to is that I'm going to see a lot of games we have talked about, and then I'll be able to just say at some point, we've talked about all of these, or these are too old, and we'll just close a bunch of tabs real fast. We do have a Video Games Chronicle article here. Sony exec says it wants to be the Nike of gaming gear. InZone will target esports competitions like Nike supplies athletes, says the exec. So yeah, Sony came out with this PlayStation 5 themed headset that's all white. It's, from what I saw of a review, an alright headphones, but it is also extremely expensive, and I think most people don't really have that good of an ear to justify spending like $500 on earphones or headphones or headsets, since it has a microphone. And then they're also selling a monitor, which I think is also probably a little bit more expensive. At a certain point, saying that phrase, actually, I think there's several different versions of it, but of the headphones, because you can see there's a wired version and a cheaper looking microphone, and then one saying the phrase that Sony wants to be the Nike of gaming gear or electronic equipment is kind of ridiculous, because Sony should want to be the Sony of old of electronic gadgets and equipment. Sony already had that market as far as electronics, and if anything, they lost it by just not continuously making products. If you wanted a Sony Walkman, you bought a Sony Walkman. Or if you wanted a tape cassette portable player, you would buy the Sony Walkman. If you wanted a CD player, a portable CD player, you bought a Sony portable CD player most of the time. If you wanted a CD-ROM in your computer, decent chance it would have been a Sony. If you wanted a TV in the old days, decent chance you should buy a Sony. Sony has effectively become too big of a company to the point where they lost focus and they started making too many movies, probably for their own good, too many TV shows for their own good, too much focus on the PlayStation exclusively. Most notably, the InZone branding here is from Sony, not Sony Interactive Entertainment. They probably had too many mergers and acquisitions for their own good. I guess I might be wrong about the price here. The headsets, it says, range from $299. I thought it was $599 to $99. The Premium H9 offers noise canceling, 3D spatial sound, and 32 hours of battery life. The H7 lacks noise canceling but extends battery life to 40 hours, while the cheapest H3 is wired. $100 for a wired headphone that's a cheaper quality is not really worth it. You can see there's a different kind of headband on it. There's a different type of microphone on it. This $99 entry level is not. It's very questionable. The M9 monitor provides auto HDR tone mapping, which allows consoles to automatically optimize HDR settings, and will automatically switch to cinema mode when you're watching movies and game mode when you're playing games, it says, which even that is not particularly big announcements. But if anything, I would say Sony potentially coming out with PC gaming hardware is literally a slap across the face of Jim Ryan and Sony Interactive Entertainment and the PlayStation brand, as this internal fight, I think, is becoming more public. And I think it's fairly obvious that there is an internal fight that is happening here, in which they led Sony of Japan, PlayStation of Japan, gave up territory to let PlayStation of California be in charge, and maybe they gave up some territory to win the war in the long run. I don't know. PlayStation is still fairly well suited, though, to win the war between this internal fight, because I still think there's a lot more people that would prefer to own a PlayStation 5 than to start go down the route of buying a PC. Yeah, having to buy a PC, having to get into PC gaming is still something that takes a level of commitment that a lot of people don't want deal with. I've lost there. But in general, it probably is better for the world if Sony went back to selling gadgets and making gadgets, although we may be in just a whole new generation of people that are not that interested in gadgets. With the iPod, and Apple really is the thing, I guess, that killed Sony in a lot of ways. Is with the iPod eventually evolving into the iPhone, the idea of a portable music player that's a separate device is ridiculous. And with home entertainment finally kind of solidifying around Blu-ray of some sort, you no longer have that many people that would want CD players or cassette players or anything hooked up to a home audio system. Home audio systems now basically just are home cinemas, or home cinema systems, and very few people are going to have turntables. And even if you do have a turntable, it's easy enough to still plug that into a home cinema system. So yeah, if Sony did get back into gadgets, they mostly can only focus on TVs, and that's about it. Yeah, I don't know what else Sony could offer. And a monitor and headphones don't work with VR, so if VR was supposed to be the future, this is inconsistent messaging. That took forever, like these games tend to do. Let's see, moving on. Video Games Chronicle says the new PlayStation Studio Haven teases exciting collaboration with rockstar Mark Cerny. Sony has announced that it has completed its purchase of Jade Raymond's studio. Both Mark Cerny and Jade Raymond are not names that immediately are recognizable to me. Apparently Jade Raymond was the Assassin's Creed co-creator, although at this point Assassin's Creed is dead. In fact, they're making parts or in whole old versions of Assassin's Creed unplayable enough that I may simply be at a good position to never get back to actually playing another Assassin's Creed game. Like, the next one in the series I should play is Assassin's Creed 3, and I would like to play Black Flag, but, you know, it might just save me some time to say, you know what, the Assassin's Creed series ends with the Ezio trilogy, and that's good enough. Like it may very well be a case where you don't need to do anything more. Okay, I'm going to add something to my hand. So if Jade Raymond is the co-creator of Assassin's Creed, then the other Mark Cerny. Mark Cerny apparently is the PlayStation 5 architect. So I assume this is Jade Raymond. I do remember this picture because this was one of a couple of pictures that they found of her that frankly are just not very professional. They come off as, oh, what would be the right word to use? Glamour photos instead of professional photos. You're hardly wearing a power suit. You're not standing up like you would see as far as any male CEOs or male presenting CEOs. You've got your hair falling to the front instead of to the back. But yeah, this is definitely a glamour photo with paper backgrounds more than it probably should be. Alright. Alright. I'm gonna play a little bit out of order here. So I must have misread this headline. Yeah, it says, exciting collaboration. The quote here is, exciting collaboration with rock star Mark Cerny. No, they intentionally made this confusing. The quote down here is, of course Mark Cerny is kind of like a rock star too, so being able to collaborate with him is really exciting. And the fact that Jalal is joining, that's a lot of bold ideas we're looking forward to explaining. So Video Games Chronicles here has just made a absolute garbage article. I mean, there's no way to get around it. They put a headline here to make it seem like they were actually dealing with an actual rock and roll musician player, and the truth of the matter is that's not the case. It is just a person who Jade Raymond is calling a rock star, which they should have known better, and they did know better, and they did it anyways. Alright. Let's go ahead and go through all the motions. Now the trick here will definitely be a case of summoning this. Putting it here. And hopefully that should activate this ability. And hopefully that would activate this ability. That would then let me summon this. Which should let me then summon something else. This guy's taking a sweet time. Video Games Chronicles has an article here. A Fall Guys clone called Stumble Guys has topped the iPhone game charts. Its developer claims Stumble Guys now has over 18 million daily players, which probably just highlights how unoriginal Fall Guys as a concept is, and how bad of a state the mobile gaming industry is. Which I can attest to that, certainly, because I've been playing my favorite game, the only game worth really playing, is, in my opinion, on Android, Destiny Child, which is a lewd game, so obviously kids can't play it, shouldn't play it. And since I've been playing it and it's been having me look at ads for other games, I'm seeing a lot of the exact same ads over and over again for the exact same games, and what these exact same games are constantly advertising is not actually even what the games are. I've installed a couple of them just to see, and it's like, no, this doesn't actually do what it says it was going to do in the ad. The ads are incredibly deceptive to make you think it's like one type of game, and then it comes back and it turns out to be a very different type of game. And you may have that element of the ad be at some point in the game, so it's not technically false advertising, but it's definitely feels like false advertising. And it definitely feels like some of the games have just crammed multiple gameplay mechanics together, not to make a good product or a good game, but to just have different kinds of ads showing different things. The pull the pin games are kind of notorious for that, where you have to pull a pin to free the lava, free the water, free the gems. It seems like there might be some level of engagement or something that they're trying to bring up as a concept, because that would be the only reason that they wouldn't just give you the game they were hoping, or that they advertise. Although it could be a case that it is more a situation where it's not trying to particularly increase engagement as much as it's just trying to keep people playing long enough that they might actually become addicted to their game and spend money on it. Regardless, there's definitely a lot of really bad mobile games and not a lot of good ones. And even Destiny Child certainly has a ridiculous amount of microtransactions. You could easily spend $600 a month on it if you wanted to, but it's totally playable as free to play if you put in the time and effort. It is a slightly weird game in that it's also fully automatable, so you don't actually have to do too much to it other than hit the go button, and even hitting the go button still seems to take a decent amount of time. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article here. Free-to-play 3-team tactical first-person shooter Alara Prime has been announced for PC, and we'll end up going through more Video Games Chronicles articles and more Gamatsu articles later. Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 Slime Speedway has been announced for basically everything, which at a certain level, I guess that means the Nickelodeon games are somewhat selling. That being said, it is worth mentioning that there is like a slick deals I saw just today for Nickelodeon All-Star Battle for $9.99. So All-Star Battle, I don't think it's the one that has voice acting as a Smash Brothers clone and fighting old Nickelodeon characters. It's probably not as interesting as the Warner Brothers Smash Brothers clone, or just Smash Brothers in general. Let's see. Gamatsu has the weekly games releases. So physically, we have Aliens Fireteam Elite, Bokura no Kishigomu Otoshi Shingaki All Seasons Enjoy set. I have no idea what that is, but I would assume this is a visual novel. Chica Dancers Nori Nori Dance de Kokoro Mo Odoru. That's probably a dancing game. Forged in Shadow Torch for Switch. I guess the Switch version was delayed. Outward Definitive Edition and Outward in general for the PS5 and PS4. And then Wreckfest for the Switch. Yeah, several of these games are Switch exclusives. Everything else is a PS4 and maybe PS5 game in one instance. It would probably be weird if we started to see a lot of games that included Xbox, but that does point out a problem with even a slight bump in sales of Xbox consoles, is that they may very well just be getting purchased as Blu-ray players more than, or as digital consoles more than as disc players, because the discs may very well just not exist on shelves in Japan. Yeah, it's already starting to get hot. And that's why the rolling blackouts were warned. Alright, well that sucks. I could have canceled that and stopped that from happening, I guess. Let's see. Let's see. Gamatsu has another visual novel here being delayed to September 23rd. You've got some cat-eared boys, some other boys. I assume this is a young maiden otome game. Yep. Otomate. They say both. Guess we probably want to destroy this world gate. Activate this effect. Get rid of this. Let's see. I'm gonna pretty much have to stop at about the minute 30 mark, hour 30 mark here as far as playing. It is not lost on me that this system of trying to cover news and play Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not really working. Worse than any previous game. Kimetsu has an article here, Dragon Quest Treasures, details the story world and characters if you want to check that out. Dragon Quest World does feel like it is a slight improvement on the visuals than your average kind of simplistic art style game. It definitely feels more like a Genshin Impact type mobile game compared to just an 8-bit mobile game that really is trying to improve the graphics. It is coming out, I guess, for the Switch exclusively, so that is where you would expect better graphics. There's so many Dragon Quest games that they're working on, though. It's hard to keep them straight in my head as far as which Dragon Quest they're actually talking about. And then we've seen this article, I think, several times, where they're promoting or putting out more information about Alice Gear Aegis, which every time I see it, I'm not interested in it. And then our last Gematsu article for a while says Microids is going to co-publish a turn-based RPG Noob the Factionless for basically everything. This is a different art style, certainly, and an art style that might somewhat work as a Western developer. It's, but it also might be too much into elite speak and weirdness that might be too much into trying to use elite speak that it's gonna kind of suck as a game or just be uninteresting to me. We have something called Fortitude Invasion, which looks like nothing. Yeah, we have something called Phobius, which looks like nothing. Here we have something called Kilta, which ditto. Here we have something called TSF Reloaded, ditto. Fire Story, not quite visually polished enough for a game as a firefighter. Here we have I assume Chinese visual novel, but maybe Japanese visual novel? Nope. Chinese. It does look better than your average Chinese visual novel. Cursed XP'd, I guess. It's a horror game. It's not probably anything, but I'll put it on the far list. Wavecade here is a shoot 'em up neon game. Rift is a neon first person shooter game. Static of Eve looks like it might actually be a Japanese adventure or Chinese adventure game. Chinese. Again, better than average. They do seem like they are getting slightly better. But there's really nothing to say too much. Hoverboy is just more neon. There really is just not anything to say if you can't play the game because of language barriers. Like you just are never going to be able to even begin to think about making an exception there. The odds on these linked cards pointing in the right direction are really lower than it seems. Like, if you have one that's pointing backwards or back to the left or right, that you almost have 100% guarantee that that'll work as your first summon. But then as a second summon, only the left and right would actually work for you, because you can only use one monster space. And the odds that you would be able to use the top left, top center, top right are actually fairly low, because that would have to make an assumption that you were using it as a second summon to then replace your first summon that was in a monster square. So if all else is the same, pointing upward is very useless unless they have an ability that points upward towards enemies. Moving on back with games, here we have some kind of Tetris game. It doesn't look particularly that interesting. Here we have an Asteroids clone that also doesn't look interesting. Here we have Castle Grey Rot, which I don't think is quite visually polished enough, even if it is going for kind of a unique art style. And it falls apart also because it's just got a lot of dark backgrounds and a lot of RPG elements. So I'm going to say no to that. A lot of these games, obviously, I'm just capable of immediately saying no to. Like Space Monkeys here. Playing as a monkey bouncing around the space. So there is potentially an argument that I should just curate more. And this one's not quite visually polished enough either. If I were to curate a little bit more, here's another Donald Trump reference, I assume. Flappy Bird clone. If I were to curate more, then that probably would solve the problem of these streams going 3 hours, and most recently the streams effectively stopping, these streams not flowing as well as I'd like it to. Like, ideally here, the solution is fairly easy. Is all I could do is have someone else on the microphone, and then I could be mostly focused on playing and having someone else read the games out to me and show me the games. It may literally just be a case of manpower, but that's highly unlikely to happen anytime soon. Next we have a game on Steam here called Nightblood Avengers Tide, which doesn't look like anything. We have about 30 more games, I would say, into the 2029. Looks like it's just an asset flip horror game. Blatst VR does not look visually polished enough for a game that's VR. A game like this, I think, already exists outside of VR, and you just have to get better visual polish around something like that. Here we have a visual novel called Winter Grey, and it looks like a horror game over here, but each of these screenshots look like they're full motion video or static images, very possibly static images. Regardless, I don't think I would put that on the fall list. We have a card game called Grimm's Tale 6, which, if I really had liked solitaire games, particularly these kinds of solitaire games that aren't very much like solitaire games that you would normally experience. They're not Klondike, they're not for free, um, they're not consistently any kind of solitaire that I could put a name to. If I really liked them, then maybe I could see myself trying to go through the Grimm's Tales series, if there's 6 of them. But obviously I have better things to do with my time than make 6 series around solitaire games. Same pretty much can be applied to something like interior design 1001 jigsaw puzzles. Just that there is obviously a niche audience that would want to play jigsaw puzzle games, just not me. Going into the unknown. Looks like it might have a chance, so it should be on the follow list. There is also a certain level, though, if you know you like jigsaw puzzles, pretty much any jigsaw puzzle game is going to be as good as all the others. So you definitely are creating a situation where it's not necessary for anybody to criticize or give buyer advice, purchasing advice on cheap jigsaw puzzle games, because you've already effectively determined that you're not a audience. Alright. Throw that in the graveyard. Put that in there. Activate this. Get rid of 4 cards. Which I guess I had 4 cards. Ready to go. Once again, I've put this guy right in the middle. And attack. Trying to move as fast as possible. Here we have one called Circadian Dice, which looks like a dice game. There might be something to this, but it looks like it might be fairly complicated of a game. Maybe too complicated for its own good. Need to end the turn before I accidentally concede. Here we have a game called Phantom Club, which looks very odd in its monocolor features. Connection failed. We rank up to gold tier 2. I think now is probably a good time to just say no more, because we're doing some catch up here. We've gotten most of this done. Declare an attack with a monster. One more game would almost pull that off. We need to Look at a Duel live here. Definitely didn't make it very far as leveling up. We didn't play too much today anyways because we had already opened a bunch of packs at the beginning. And it definitely feels like there's no real fanfare around the opening of packs in this game. Here we have a game called Meta Sudoku, which looks like a Sudoku, so I'll put it on the follow list. Neil Watson's Founder Life. Seems like it's a entrepreneurial simulator game. It doesn't look interesting enough that I'd want to play it though. We have something called Western Rooms, which is probably an asset flip. There are escape room scenarios in the West, which that in itself is not terrible, but having only 3 of them seems to be fairly limited. Yeah, I'm gonna say no to that. Here we have a dating sim Chinese game that looks like it might have some other gameplay element to it, like a board game. It's Chinese only though, so same old problem. Here we have a horror game called Escape the Monster. Of course, the danger here is if I start just filtering things out for my own choice. Like, it's an easy choice to say YouTube won't let me show adult games, so let's filter out adult games. It's a slightly harder choice, but only slightly, to say let's only follow English-speaking games, and we'll just use that as a caveat. Downtown Jam here. Unfortunately, I don't think it's visually polished enough. Otherwise, the idea of a Tony Hawk Jam clone isn't terrible. If anything, this feels like they've literally taken some of the level ideas from Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam and cloned it. I kind of want to keep that. I feel like Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam really did offer something different, but nobody else seemed to like it. It's slightly harder decision, certainly, and probably the wrong decision, to start to say, let's just get rid of horror games. There's too high of a chance of there actually being a good horror game. If anything, I could potentially say the same about like dungeon crawler games, and dungeon crawler games I could get rid of a lot easier because there's very low chance that a dungeon crawler game is going to catch my attention. So at some point I could try to put 100% of my faith in tags and filter that way. I just don't think that's the right move. Yeah. And I don't want to inherently just agonize over it just to later on be able to say I agonized over it, but then I chose to do it anyways. I chose to censor anyways. This SE proxy might be something. I don't suspect it is. Before the explosion. Very deceptive trailer there compared to what the actual game is, and what the thumbnail is deceptive even to a certain level. So that's going to be a no. Platform roll looks like it's a ball simulator game, which Glover never did get fixed, and that was one of the original ball simulators. We have a game called Science Simulator that doesn't look like anything. Here we have Shiba Inu VR Katana Simulator. Okay, I could see that being something. I'll put that on the follow list. Here we have a two zoomed out hack and slash side scrolling shooter game, all in Chinese. Pop Bowling VR. Looks like it might actually be good. So we'll put that on the follow list. Of course, I should just sign in at some point. Crazy Wheels is probably just a name confusion game for Hot Wheels. That being said, I don't want to just immediately dismiss it because of that, so I'm going to give it a follow. Neon Blight. They've really gotten crazy with these video elements. I should block those when people are live streaming, because it doesn't help me. Neon Blight looks like it's probably just a top-down RPG game more than even a top-down twin-stick shooter. Let's see. This game looks like garbage. Let's come over here and get some background music. At least, even if it is just the same old background music. Here we have a game called The Creature Escape Room. And again, this second group of games on Steam, I'm not seeing any adult games. Nor am I seeing pages that are empty. Yeah, so either there still was some filtering going on, or there literally actually aren't as many adult games as I thought. I definitely am missing some, and have missed some, but it isn't as much as it would seem. I wouldn't be surprised if in like the past month there's been 2 Western adult games that I've missed. This Lunar Axe as a point-and-click adventure game, or maybe more of a hidden object game. I kind of like the weird art style here, so I'll give that a follow. Then here we have another Chinese visual novel. This one looks particularly bad. I think we had already talked about this GameDeveloper.com article about Meta dropping Facebook account requirements. Heroes of the Storm won't be receiving any more updates. I think we had already talked about that. Apparently, It Takes Two has now sold over 7 million copies, which is probably not saying as much as you would think, because it's a game that requires co-op. So if 10 million was the number to really celebrate for a game, or 5 million was the number to celebrate for a game, the number should really be double for a co-op game. So effectively, from my perspective, I would say consider this closer to 3.5 million copies being sold, because of the inherent requirement that you have somebody else buy the game and play it in co-op with you. Unless there's couch co-op, which then that would eliminate that argument. It's a shame, because It Takes Two was very well received by mainstream video game critics, but I really do question how many people actually played it, actually enjoyed it, actually played it all the way to the end. If I were to look at like the Metacritic score of this game, would I find that the user score or the Steam reviews are way lower than the actual like mainstream video game critic reviews are? And It Take Two was immediately sold to be a film or television. They immediately sold the rights to that, so, and probably would be. They probably would be better. It Takes Two probably would be as a TV show or movie, probably a movie. would make the most sense. And then GameDeveloper.com says Ubisoft's decommissioning spree could render more titles unplayable than first thought. Assassin's Creed Liberation HD and Silent Hunter 5 look to be unexpected casualties. Let's see. The thing there is that they're just kind of that they're kind of just destroying the online services, and then several of these games require online services. And then see here. It says, please note this game will not be accessible following September 1st, 2022. At the request of publisher, Assassin's Creed Liberation HD is no longer available for sale on the Steam. Which arguably you should check out if I even own it, but I'm not signed in, so I wouldn't be able to check that out. I don't even know what Silent Hunter 5 is. Like, ideally, if Ubisoft was just going to get rid of Uplay, then maybe they should have just said, we're going to get rid of Uplay and we're going to patch all these games. But now we're really at a point where that it seems like they're just abandoning them, and you're back to, if you wanted to play Silent Hunter 5, which doesn't seem like too many people actually did want to play it, unless all of these are new reviews. We can look at the graph. Yeah. There is basically no negativity until about 2013. So, but there has been a considerable amount of negativity since then. So, unless you were going to try and claim this to be a long review bomb, this game is just bad. So they might as well get rid of a bad game. But can you say the same as far as Assassin's Creed Liberation HD? I think I do own this game. Come to think of it. You can see 54% positive in the last 30 days, 13% overwhelmingly negative. If we were to look at the graph, it has been fairly consistently negative for its entire lifetime, and then major negativity here. And so yeah, you just can't play this game. So if I did buy this game, I've just been robbed. Which I should probably ask for a refund. Yeah. If I've never asked for a refund on Steam before, but if I've not played the game, which I don't think I have, I should just ask for the refund and get the store credit back, get the money back, and buy something different. And that certainly paints a weird point as to how many Assassin's Creed games I'd want to play. The better solution here definitely would have been to point out that they were going to get rid of Uplay or massively overhaul it to make it better, at least make those promises, and then from that point turn a negative into a positive by saying we've heard your feedback. Everybody hates Uplay. We're going to slowly patch and shut it down. If anything, it feels like what they've decided to do is take the bad press now so that in the future they can announce that Uplay will go away for certain games, but we're still not going to support the old games and patch the old games. Like, by discontinuing support for a bunch of old games, they could potentially now patch the new games. And it's a close competition, certainly, as to whether Uplay or EA Origin are worse. But I think Uplay is considered worse by most. Moving on, we've got some more games here that are flawless cleanup, which means I would have to log in, which oddly means there isn't that much. And not a single adult game? How did that happen? I did reboot. I restarted Chrome and updated it. So all the tabs would have had to have reloaded at that point, I guess. But if they had all reloaded and then they had linked to something that would have just closed the tab. Yeah, maybe that's what happened. Either that or in the past 50 games / the past couple days, there literally hasn't been an adult game that came out, which maybe that's the case too. Here we have another follow list cleanup that's overwhelmingly positive, so I should put this on the wish list. Superland, 6 inches under. Mix between Portal, Zelda, and Metroidvania exploration, puzzles, and combat. That's a big combination of games, but oddly seems to actually have satisfied people. So yeah, I'll put that on the wish list. Let's see, super secret here. Either I should give more time to, or I should just remove it. I think I removed this one. I don't think it's ever going to be relevant. And then Super Bugs Awaken. Looks like it's a player versus player type game. Nope. Yep, it's an online co-op game. So I should get rid of that. And then Super Land Legend of Katzenbar. I think we can get rid of that. Super Toy Cars Off-Road. We give more time to. Super Sunny Island, I think we get rid of. Super Sports Blast, I'll give more time to. Yeah. Super Soccer Blast, America versus Europe. I think I'll give more time to think about. Super Soccer Blast in general, I think, does qualify and should be on the wish list. Find one good soccer game. And then Super Shooter, I'll give more time to. So, this puts me in a weird position. We've only gone 2 hours, which The threat of rolling blackouts is real. It's super hot. So do I want to risk it and just have the stream break? Like, we should probably play at least one more game. For sure. But as far as video game news is concerned, I could try and rerun my macro, or I can go through my Twitter feed. And I assume rerunning the macro won't really do too much. Now, today is Monday, so it's not super surprising that there wouldn't be news. So it's not, that's not the part that is throwing me through a loop. What's throwing me through a loop is I thought there would have been a considerably larger number of games that would have been covered. And it doesn't seem like that. That is the case. The daily PC game shorts, YouTube shorts, are working shockingly well. I've never had any real major level of success that was consistent on YouTube. There's been a couple times where I've covered some Hearthstone thing and gained a few hundred views on that specific one Hearthstone video. But it does seem like the YouTube Shorts algorithm, or the way the algorithm benefits in YouTube Shorts, is actually being very generous. It may very well be that there's just not that much competition to it. I wouldn't be surprised if there is really a case where there are a lot of content creators that just hate YouTube Shorts, and I get that. I certainly would understand people just hating it and refusing to engage with it, thinking it would be nothing, and then all of a sudden it does, for one reason or another, turn out to be something more. Apparently Myth, M-Y-T-H, whoever that is, has decided to stream on YouTube. So says, "This is my decision," and then you see all these videos, and then /MythYT, adding YouTube, exclusive on YouTube Gaming, which YouTube Gaming is really not a thing anymore, even though it pretends like it is. And you can see YouTube Gaming is really highlighting this. So he may have been a very big Twitch streamer, whatever that really means. But I don't follow streamers enough to recognize any of them, other than like PewDiePie. Yeah, Ubisoft's update to Video Games Chronicles is when they put out this article that said the Steam page suggested could soon be unplayable even for owners. Ubisoft tells VGC, "We don't take this decision to retire services for older games lightly," and claim that it's accessing all available options for impacted players. They've issued another follow-up that states the information is incorrect and that Assassin's Creed Liberation HD will remain playable after September 1st. So maybe it is playable. undoubtedly I've done what a lot of people have done on Steam and bought a bunch of games at a higher price than I needed to have them sit in my inventory of backlogged Steam games. Well, that didn't work. If I could get a couple of quick victories here, I could potentially level up a second time, rank up a second time. But I think I'm gonna lose. Where did that go? I just launched a new tab. Here we are. So here's the page that it's supposed to be going. It goes down, and I have it only showing games, and I probably. I'm gonna just cancel here and let this guy play. Probably should narrow this down by language, and definitely should narrow it down by adult content. See, if I was to narrow it down to English, that would do that. And get rid of some. Oh, and I see what has happened here. It logged me out, and because it logged me out, it's not showing any adult content at all. And it does say that right now. Excluded based on your preferences. Content filtering, yes, view unfiltered. Search results. Let's click that. What was excluded here? You must log in to see this content. I get it now. So, this almost certainly is an adult game here. And that's why it didn't pop up. This almost certainly is an adult game. So I need to make sure I'm logged in. This almost certainly is another adult game. See, we would really only be going back to... This is probably an adult game. This is probably an adult game. It doesn't have to be an adult game. These could also be just games that were literally blocked because they were from publishers that are flooding Steam with garbage games. That should be the only filtering preferences that... I mean, I don't know what preferences it even thinks I have, because it says I'm not logged in, so what is being filtered out otherwise? Unless these are being excluded by your preferences and your preferences mean these. There's obviously just a default user that everybody gets. This almost certainly is an adult game, too. And yeah, even if you're not signed in, there seems to be a default user, and that default user is excluded. But yeah, even looking at everything, I know on Friday we played up to, let's see, probably about here on the 8th, which that pretty much is every game we looked at. It's not that much. Just nothing came out. I still would prefer the coming soon games to disappear, but I think we're going to have to live with the coming soon because there is not a filter here, at least not when you're logged out, to filter by coming soon or remove that. So they've got me over a barrel on that one. But yeah, I guess the first step I will do going forward is make sure I am logged in, and I figure there's probably a way to do that, but I have no idea how that really would be, or that would really work. I guess we can double check to see Alice Madness Returns is still the only game coming up when I search for Spicy Horse, the developer. So the Spicy Horse games on Steam still seem to be disappearing. And then we had 2 articles that came out over the course of this stream, and then I think we just wrap up this stream. Going 2 hours and 15 minutes is enough for me. Apparently a Pokemon trading card game show is in the works. Unscripted show focused on the Pokemon trading card game. Is it going to be a Japanese show or a Western show? Because that is a big difference. Like, I could see a Japanese show doing it very much on the cheap. It does seem like, though, this is going to be LA. So a bunch of LA kids. I can't help but assume what this is going to turn into is a bunch of Logan Pauls in the making with Pokemon cards in the trading card game, very much not playing a big role, and you're just gonna have a bunch of like either super coastal elitist kids in the show, and they're all gonna try and be personalities, and they're all gonna try to get more camera time, and it's gonna be so faked. Like, I have to assume that's what an LA producer would want to do. Meanwhile, you're also creating a terrible situation in which unless you're extremely, extremely careful, we're going to come back in a few years and talk about a story where all the kids are either abused in some way as child actors, either by their parents or by directors or even low level production people. Um, it is really probably a case where you should just never allow kids on TV in the first place. And if we had more of the European sentimentality in the United States, we would do that, where you're straight up not showing the faces and blurring the faces of random kids, even in news reports, to protect their privacy. Uh, in the modern era, protecting your children's privacy is one of the most important things that you can easily forget about doing. Um, and putting them on like Facebook and putting them, trying to make them celebrities on YouTube is a nightmare scenario. Like, there in my memory are more stories of parents using their kids to become YouTube celebrities than there are stories of kids actually being somewhat successful on their own or ambitious on their own to be YouTube celebrities. Because it's a lot of hard work to be a YouTube celebrity or any kind of celebrity, and it's not particularly fun. But if you even put all of that to the side, a Pokemon trading card game show is probably not going to be that interesting or that good. Like, Pokemon as a collectible card game is not even that good of a game. So, like, in a lot of ways, I imagine Day 9 is rolling in his unfilled grave at this point. He's still alive, but he does, like, we saw him at the Summer Games Fest just a month ago, and he does look pretty old now for a Magic the Gathering streamer. Like, he probably hates the idea that he could be replaced with just a bunch of random kids playing Pokemon, and they probably would do as well as his own streams and videos of playing Magic are. But yeah, maybe they'll find some way to do it and make it good. Certainly, this is not like making the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cartoon anime. And at some point, maybe it would have been just smarter for the Pokemon Company to make a cartoon slash anime based on the card game exclusively, instead of just the Pokemon anime, which keeps on, which is still going to this point. It wouldn't have been too hard to spin off a character into the Pokemon universe and introduce playing that they actually play collectible card games of Pokemon in the Pokemon universe with Pokemon. But they didn't go that way because they wanted just to focus on selling the main game. And then the other article we have here from Video Games Chronicles, 2022 games, what games are left to release this year, handy guide of remaining video games planned to arrive. So is this just going to be a full list? July releases is Stray, Forza Horizon 5 Hot Wheels, Capcom Arcade Second Stadium. This is really going to be the top tier games though. Live A Live, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, 2 Points Campus in August, Spider-Man's PC, Marvel Spider-Man Remastered for PC, August 12th, Madden 23, August, was that 19th? Saints Row, I did not realize Saints Row was coming out that quickly, August 23rd, Pac-Man World, August 26th, they're really rushing that. Lord of the Rings Golem, September 1st. Last of Us Part 1, September 2nd. That's just a re-release. Tomorrow Children Phoenix Edition, September 6th. I'm actually a little surprised that is coming out so late. I thought that was just around the corner. NBA 2K23, September 9th. I guess they like to get all the sports games out around Christmas instead of getting the games out around the season. There would make more sense. Maybe people play on the off seasons. If you're playing the basketball game, you play it when the basketball in the real world isn't happening. Splatoon 3 comes out September 9th. Are the kids in Splatoon potentially changing the way they look? I feel like this feels like they've gotten a little bit more beachy, or at least these two do. These two feel a little bit more angsty. And so I wonder if the idea is that the Squid Kids, or whatever they are called, are growing up into Squid teenagers with each game, which I guess maybe there's a logic there. If you made the first game for 10-year-olds and you're on to the third game, they probably are teenagers at this point. Metal Hellsinger is coming out September 15th. Deliver Us Mars, September 27th, which I'd have to double check to figure out which space game that even is. Overwatch 2 comes out October 4th. Midnight Suns is coming out October 7th. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets canceled or pushed back. Plague Tale Requiem, October 18th. Noticeably, I am seeing this list, and it's probably this list exclusively, seems to be pacing out games. Like, a game comes out like once a week instead of it all coming out on the exact same week or weekend. Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope, October 20th. Scorn, October 21st. That's a close release date, but also not much overlap there between those types of players. Gotham Knights comes out October 25th. We are, I guess, running out of time for them to surprise people and put Batman in the game they swear doesn't have Batman. Otherwise, Gotham Knights, I think, like Marvel Suns, are both going to be games that aren't really that interesting. High on Life, October 25th. That'll be funny if High on Life beats Gotham Knights. Same day release. And decent chance of some overlap there. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 on October 28th. Skull and Bones, November 8th, which I couldn't care less. God of War Ragnarok. November 9th for God of War Ragnarok. There is enough time, I think, for the fan base who have been super hyped and ravenous for announcements and release dates around God of War Ragnarok. I think there's still enough time for the creators to push the narrative of their player base being toxic and just kind of insulting the entire player base instead of mostly ignoring the people who are putting troll messages or hate messages, because that would have been the right response, but not the response they took. So I wouldn't be 100% surprised if they push it too far on the narrative that the player base is toxic, and then we see considerably less sales of God of War Ragnarok. That being said, I also wouldn't be surprised if the narrative of the creator pushing the idea that the player base is toxic takes a couple years and a couple releases before it finally sinks in. It feels like it took quite a while before the Call of Duty fan base got tired of being mistreated or insulted by the creators and finally decided to stop buying the games and playing the games. But yeah, hopefully what would be best for God of War Ragnarok is for their creators to simply go silent and just let the game release. They've got the announcement date out. They don't have to announce anything else. If they do want to announce anything else, it can be done in press releases and hype machines. And just, if people don't like a press release or a hype machine advertisement, they can just ignore that feedback and push forward and not respond to it. Moving on, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet come out November 18th, but because this game is, I think, 4-player at the same time, I really do have to question what the difference between Scarlet and Violet is, other than the different color accents of clothing, where if you play Scarlet, you have red pants and a red tie, and if you play Violet, you have purple violet pants and violet ties. If it co-op effectively connects the games, and there aren't different Pokemon in Scarlet, then there aren't any exclusive Pokemon to Scarlet or Violet, then why even have two versions of the game? Which honestly, that is the real response anyways. I also wouldn't be surprised if there's a decent percentage of younger Pokemon fans who bought the remakes of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and are still busy playing Diamond and Pearl and haven't even heard about or gotten hyped around Scarlet and Violet, which would have been the much better game for them to play. December 2nd is the Callisto Protocol, which I hope that's good. We haven't seen a ton about it. And then as far as some point in 2022, the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, I haven't heard anything about that. And if this game is finished, it probably would still be held back for the Avatar movie. Bayonetta 3, I didn't realize Bayonetta 3 wasn't even out yet. I thought it was out and had been out for quite a while. Crisis Core Fantasy, Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Disney's Speedstorm. Again, not a game I'd ever even heard of. Hogwarts Legacy. Yeah, that's supposed to come out. Multiverses. That could be delayed easily. You are seeing now with the WB properties, they're getting slightly more characters in the collection, but they could easily double the number of characters here. There's enough room in this picture alone to have a whole nother row of people behind them and in front of them. And so triple the number of people to even be a decent selling point. Honestly, I think it probably boils down to you need to claim at least 50 different combatants, and it's going to just be a big round number like that you need to target more than who you have. Even just add a bunch of people with a bunch of different so you can get it up to 50 or 100 even if you can. Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals also is supposed to come out. Return to Monkey Island is also supposed to come out. Now, I will say this thumbnail looks pretty awful. If the entirety of Monkey Island looks like that, I would not be happy. But that's not the art style that I feel like they were really promising. Yeah, the actual game art style here might be a little low polygon, but not that low polygon. Maybe I really just have not paid enough attention. In part, if being 10 feet away and looking at the screen, it's fairly easy to not notice a subtle difference. It does seem like there are some slightly sharper edges now that I look at it. But it's still not really anything I would complain about. Like, they could animate the game in any way they wanted, as long as it was a decently well written and well playing Monkey Island game. And I just don't know. While they made a decision here, kind of with sharper edges, particularly in that thumbnail, I don't know if any decision is particularly wrong for remaking Monkey Island, because you can't really do the 8-bit pixel graphics again. Sonic Frontiers is also supposedly coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if that's delayed. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Collection, which I assume that's going to be a lot of Ninja Turtle games. 13 Ninja Turtle games. How many of those are actually worth playing? Probably not that many. And that is probably a consistent theme to land on there, is that of the curated games that Video Games Chronicle just pointed out as far as games that are coming out this year, that number is not particularly high, and we do have a decent amount of time still. Like, apparently I still did not declare an attack with a monster, so I didn't get that daily quest done. Let's see. Apparently Elden Ring publisher Bandai Namco has reportedly been targeted in a ransomware attack. I imagine that happens all the time, though. Let me see if there's any other news. Otherwise, I think we can end here. Yep. So I have a little bit more work to do, but mostly I just need to spend the rest of today and some of tomorrow focusing on playing Wolfenstein the Old Blood, and trying to not spend too much time focusing on Amazon Prime Day lightning sales, but I probably will spend the next couple days doing that. That may also very well eat into the live stream on Wednesday, so we may have a shorter live stream on Wednesday also. That's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and give me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.